Hello, my name is Steve, and I've been with Managed English for the last 8 years. This will be my first video with Managed English, so I'll provide a brief history of where I came from and how I got to Americana, Brazil. I started my life in Rossford, Ohio, a small town of about 6,000 people located on the outskirts of Toledo, Ohio. For the first 19 years of my life, I lived, went to school, and hung out with friends in this area. Once I graduated high school, though, I joined the United States Air Force and spent the next 5 years traveling the world fixing fighter jets. After my military service, I attended college and started my career in the engineering area of manufacturing. I would work for various companies, but eventually settling into a research and development position with a large corporation. The company would send me to different parts of the world, whereas fate would have it, I'd meet Vanya, who you've already met in previous videos. These last years have offered me a unique perspective of the English language and what difficulties can arise among students who speak English as a second language. So in light of this video, I will be talking about the modal would, which can be used to indicate something that existed in the past but no longer does. So let's go to the classroom and discuss this point of grammar. So now that we're in the classroom, let's go ahead and discuss the modal verb would to indicate situations that existed in the past but no longer are relevant in this day and time. Normally when we hear people talking about the past history, you'll hear them use the verb used to, as in, I used to live in the United States. I used to be in the United States Air Force. I used to drive a 1967 Pontiac Grand Prix. All these are good examples of historical events that are no longer relevant. However, how do we use the modal verb would in the same manner? Well, there is a minor caveat that we have to keep into consideration when we do this. Whereas used to indicates or can indicate a habitual or infrequent situation, the modal verb would can only be used to indicate an infrequent situation that occurred in the past. So, for example, if we look at habitual situations, we have habitual, a situation that is observed as being fixed in nature. It is constant. The idea is constant. So, for example, I used to live in the United States. I used to be in the Air Force. I used to drive a 1967 Pontiac Grand Prix. All these are considered habitual situations. They're constant. To live, to be, to drive. Whereas infrequent situations, a situation that is observed to not have a constant or regular interval. For example, when I was in high school, I would go home for lunch. Here, to go home for lunch is infrequent. It's an infrequent activity. That was only when I was in high school. Now let's look at a couple more examples of using would to indicate historical situations that no longer exist now. So here are 3 more examples of using would to indicate situations that existed in the past but no longer are relevant. First of all, I have, when I was in high school, I would go to dance clubs on the weekend. During my time in Germany, my brother and I would go hiking in the forest. While in college, I would perform a certain ritual before tests. So, can you see the difference between habitual and infrequent sentences? First of all, I indicate when I was in high school. Sets up my time. Then I would say I would go to dance clubs on the weekends. So here, I would go to dance clubs on the weekends when I was in high school. The same situation exists for the next 2 examples. During my time in Germany, and while in college, I would perform a certain ritual before tests. So here you can see a situation that's created defining our time in the past, and then we use would to indicate an infrequent situation. So you're probably asking, when would I use this type of information or this type of modal to indicate past situations that no longer exist? Well, you'll find that normally this is used in conversations when you're talking about things you used to do when you were younger, or when you were in you had certain circumstances, like for example, being in college, or being in high school, or for me, being in the military, or now being in Brazil. I'm asked some of the things that I would do for entertainment. For example, here's one. Hey Steve, what did you do for fun when in Germany? This is a possible response. My brother and I would go hiking in the German forests or visit the old castles in the area. I'm using would to indicate past events, which were infrequent in nature. I could just as easily use I used to. So, my brother and I used to go hiking in the German forest or visit the old castles in the area. However, I used would. Or another example would be, what did I normally do for fun when I was in high school? And my answer, a possible answer would be, my friends and I would play football on Sundays. Would play football on Sundays. Again, an infrequent situation. And then to compare a habitual situation and an infrequent situation, I used to drive a Pontiac Grand Prix. I cannot include I would drive a Pontiac Grand Prix. It doesn't work. It does not indicate a past event. Whereas here, when I was bored, I would drive my 1967 Pontiac Grand Prix on Route 465, which circled the city. Here, this is not a habitual situation. It is infrequent. So therefore, I can use would, or I can say when I was bored, I used to drive my 1967 Pontiac Grand Prix on Route 465. It's been such a long time, I don't know if that's the actual number, but I believe that it is Route 465. So anyways, there you have it. The use of used to and would to indicate situations that occurred in the past. Well, there you have it. The use of the modal would, which can be used to indicate something that happened in the past, but no longer does. I want to thank you for watching the video and look forward to creating more in the near future. So, if you have any questions or comments, please make them below. Also, like us, share us, and subscribe to our YouTube video channel for future installments of English Grammar from Managed English. Have a great day. Ciao.